Okay, so thanks again, folks, joining this call. This call is about talking about this issue, budgeting chart in order to ship breaking change safely. Jump into the agenda. So at first, I'm going to explain the motivation. Here's a problem statement. Today, AutoDeploy, the latest release chart is always fetched and used. Yes, the latest one is used. And this sometimes makes a difficult situation when we introduce a breaking change as it interferes existing setups for users customers. For example, the feature request of canary ingress support. And we need to introduce architecture change to Kubernetes resources. This likely breaks backward compatibility. However, we still want to ship this feature as a new standard and slowly migrate users from old version to new version. So let me explain this issue a bit before starting this issue. Okay. So currently, Progressive Delivery team is working on this issue. There are a bunch of issues about like enabling canary ingress into the AutoDevOps deployments and to allow users to use advanced request control. For example, like here, a couple of parameters can be assigned to canary ingress. For example, if user set a specific header, canary, for example, canary enable, then the request always goes to canary instance. It's kind of similar to GitLab Next, right? You set a cookie and then you're always access to canary instance instead of GitLab.com. If I understand correctly, it's impossible in the current charts, right? It doesn't support such thing. And
that's right.
And also we can control by weight. The similar thing is achieved in today's AutoDevOps as by controlling the weight of pods, scaling up pods in production and scaling down. Scaling down the, for example, incremental rollout situation. We at first scaling up the canary pods and then next scaling down the pods in production, a stable track, so that we can kind of control the traffic weight, but ideally it should be controlled at the canary ingress. So installing canary ingress gives us a lot of flexibility on this, like advanced progressive delivery strategies. So this is something we are aiming to accomplish. Yes. So that's a point why we want to introduce canary ingress. And actually, we have a community contribution. Contribution here. This actually trying to install canary ingress into our charts. But as we had a discussion, it's a bit tough, I guess. What's the biggest concern is that likely this breaks existing setups. So it breaks backward compatibility. And we discussed for a long time, but we haven't had any solutions yet. So maybe like we can almost conclude that backward breaking change is almost inevitable. So we need something in the new architecture to introduce. Let us easily introduce a breaking change by versioning.
Yeah. So what is the architecture change?
Okay. So architecture change is so this is today's architecture. GL managed app engine. But first, use a intro engineering class, engine X class in GL managed app namespace, and it routes to, for example, production namespace, and it has ingress. It routes to service, and then it routes request to pods and stable truck or canary truck or rollout truck. Yes.
Yep.
It's is it correctly? Is it accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, correct.
Okay. And the proposed architecture is the basically insert canary English here. So here's the same GL managed app Nginx English, and it routes to production namespace English. It is the same, and here's a new one. We install canary English, and this canary English basically does a bunch of like if the conditional switching. So for example, if canary header, it's the like a canary enabled parameter exists in request header, then it's routes a request to canary truck. If it doesn't exist, then routes to stable truck. Or maybe like there's a weight-based strategy is defined here. So like 40% of traffic goes to canary, and 60% goes to stable, something like that. And then basically, this is also a new one. We introduce dedicated service for each truck. So stable truck service, here the same. Deployment are same, but it's tied to a dedicated service in the new architecture. Postgres is also same. So what the newly added resources are basically canary English and each service. Previously, we only had one service for all tracks, stable canary rollout, but in the new architecture, we introduced a dedicated service for each track. Yes. Any questions?
I just wanted to say I really like the pictures.
Yeah. It was surprisingly well done.
Yeah, great work. Yeah,
Thanks.
I think that's really clear to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. So this is something like makes a new standard. So with that in mind, let's dive into the proposal for versioning. Well, thank you for joining the discussion. After couple of discussions, I'm kind of inclined to this proposal today. It's basically we bundle the charts into AutoDeploy image and maintain charts in the image in the same semantic versioning. So yeah, it's it's basically, let's move this project into AutoDeploy image, since these projects are tightly coupled. So it's much easier to control, maintain these projects. We no longer maintain or deploy a project. This project likely be deprecated, and instead we maintain the charts in AutoDeploy image project. We no longer release new charts to charts GitLab.io. Yes, the currently published charts are. Sorry, let me ask a question. Like today, AutoDeploy image fetch the charts from charts GitLab.io. I understand that this is because when we introduced AutoDeploy, AutoDevOps, it's already relied on charts GitLab.io. But if I understand correctly, this is not really necessary part. Or do we have to fetch charts from charts GitLab.io?
No, we don't have to. In fact, we have an option for people to have their own charts chucked into the repo under /charts.
Yeah.
So if they're already checked in, we'll use that local version. So I think this is a history thing where previously we don't have a Docker image. We just do everything in the GitLab CI YAML. So that's why we needed a fetcher, because we don't have a place to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So other additional questions that, like you said, today's AutoDeploy is very flexible. Like users can completely change the charts, like their custom charts. It's like if they completely change the charts, do we still have to support their workflow? Like the I should say that.
Yes, yeah. So if they have a chart that has a resource like a CRD, for example, like super custom resource, like what is our script gonna do? I think the answer is no. In general, because they are also free to customize the Docker image as well, right? So they can tell us to use a different Docker image too. So I think the answer is no.
So in other words, if user uses our charts, like default offshore charts, and it breaks their application, that's we have to support them, right? We have to fix the issue.
If user use our charts and then it breaks their
like our product, our product, not like they don't define any like custom charts or
yeah. That's the idea.
So the currently published charts are remaining in charts.io. The latest version is 0.7 or something, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this remains in charts GitLab.io in order to support the existing DevOps setups.
Yep.
And AutoDeploy image has download charts command. From now on, it basically uses the local charts and it doesn't download from charts GitLab.io. Actually, I wrote a proposal somewhere.
If someone is using AutoDevOps to deploy GitLab itself. Sorry, I was just joking.
Right. So we need to trigger a download chart function a bit. Like if chart folder exists in the user repository, the chart is used, edited same. And if AutoDeploy chart environment variables are specified, it fetches the charts from that. This is not correct.
Charts.GitLab.io.
No,
Okay.
I think that they must be specifying their own repository. I forget
Yeah,
what the
yeah.
code looks
Wait,
like, but it's probably a separate variable.
AutoDeploy's chart URL.
AutoDeploy charts here. Like it's highly customizable, and like user can specify any repository, right? And if they choose a custom repository, then we fetch charts from there.
Yep.
And if there are no such variables, then we use bundled charts. Maybe like we, don't know, spin. We make source.
Like, I suspect a lot of these options are not used, but we just cannot know if they are very easily.
We put charts here, right? Well, for example, yes.
Yeah. So that folder name in our project doesn't matter. What matters is the Docker file. When
Exactly.
we copy the folder, we just need to not copy it in to clash with the user repository charts.
Yeah, exactly. So basically the charts in Docker image is located different place from the build year. So at first it won't be conflicted, and we have to make sure that directly existence before we actually move it from the bundle place to that repository as a build year. When we introduce a breaking change, we implement the major version of AutoDeploy image.
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting. So do we want to do this bundling first before we introduce a breaking change? Is that what we're doing?
That's a good question.
I'm not sure.
I was thinking that bundling and making a breaking change all together, but it could be confusing. So we should do bundling at first.
Yeah, perhaps. But I don't know whether bundling is a breaking change or not. Perhaps not, I think.
I think if the chart YAML file maintains the same names and stuff, everything should keep working. Like, as long as we don't rename the chart internally, it's like we'll still be installing it from a local folder. I think it should be fine.
Okay, we have to test it out then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I agree with you guys. So like at first we don't make any breaking changes like the resource changes, but just move from press A to B and make sure that it doesn't break the current setups. So we introduce a minor update in AutoDeploy image. Yes. And we likely need a migration plan for users to upgrade their AutoDeploy setups to the latest version. Migration. We are discussing about how we introduce breaking change. This is our main concern. So what are we going to do? That's right. So here we go. Yeah, so here's my thought on this. The version image tag of AutoDeploy image in AutoDeploy, the AutoDeploy template points to v0, not like exact version, specific version, but just v0, and which is the latest version of 0.x.x. And the version of AutoDeploy image in template could be updated to v1 at the GitLab measure minor release. The measure versions between previous step and the ongoing setup doesn't match. If the measure versions doesn't match, then we show a warning to users. Results in the pipeline fields and show two options. Upgrade to the latest measure version by following a manual upgrade guide. Yeah, so this is interesting. I didn't realize that we have such things. So here's today we have an upgrade guide for Postgres, and it's really nice. And I think we can follow the kind of same step. Like if you want to upgrade your charts, then you have to follow the manual upgrade guide at first. Or if you want to keep using the legacy charts, then please set the variables.
Yeah, to the
And
chart.
then, yeah.
Yeah, so I think the pattern that we followed is that if we can make available the next major version before GitLab 14.0, then we can test for a while and have it opt in for a while. And then GitLab 14.0, we flip the default to the new major version. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's the plan, I guess.
We can also use, the thing we've been talking about in a different thread around putting new users on the new thing as soon as we feel it's ready for that. So, when you make a breaking change, it's not actually a breaking change if the person has never used the thing before. So that would give us the ability to iron out a lot of problems before having to switch people who have stable workflows.
That is true. Yep. Yeah, they could be like between step 1 and 3. Yep. Okay. So I don't know about the exact mechanics of the migration. I guess that depends on, I think we can work that out later, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The migration guide really values per situation. So,
So I've got a question about the bundling, because we say that we want to have one single semantic version. But then can we do that and bundle without breaking change? Like how does that? What is going to be the new version number?
So maybe like 1 point. You mean like AutoDeploy image and charts?
Yeah, and charts. Yeah. So we want to bundle first, right? So we can't bump it to v1.
So 0.18.
Why not?
So it's a breaking change.
Technically, we are so right now we're at the 0 point something release. So Semver actually doesn't have any guarantees at the moment. We can make breaking changes whenever. And like if you're following the strict Semver contract, it doesn't matter. I think putting it to 1.0 is just saying we think this is stable. So I think we could release 1.0 right now of all of them and say this is and actually say from now on it's frozen, only bug fixes. This is stable, but now we're gonna, and then the next one that we bundle with 13.2 might be, no, not 13.2. Whenever we do the actually breaking changes, will be 2.0. So basically, just say this is the first stable release, and next one is gonna be actually breaking.
So both auto-deploy image and auto-app will become 1.0. Okay, it just means that our detection script will have to detect both V0 and V1. Well, that's fine. We just actually we don't have to. We just say if it's not less than 2. That's fine. That's not a big problem at all. I like it. I like the idea. So we bundle and we bump it to V1 for the whole thing, for the whole bundle. Makes sense to me.
Maybe the first time we bundle, we bump it to something that's larger than both, but is still 0 point something, just because V1 makes it sound very stable. But I think it's more of a semantic thing. Like, I don't think actually one that means that it needs to be perfect at all. So bumping it to V1 should be fine. It just means that we should follow Semver very strictly, or more strictly than we have. So that we have been following it quite strictly already.
Honestly, I think we have to anyway, because AutoDevOps is so well, it's kind of widespread and it runs automatically. So if you don't follow Semver, we're just asking for trouble, because people's pipeline will automatically run and it will automatically break.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually why Semver is somewhat meaningless to us, because we are bound to much stricter stability requirements than Semver. Okay, because our users aren't upgrading, like even with like on GitLab.com, users are still auto upgraded anytime that the default template is updated, and that's like a separate issue that, or maybe that's one way we can solve breaking changes is by not auto upgrading the templates for people who are already using them, and saying like, there's a new template out, do you want to switch to it? And if you want to switch to it, please follow these manual steps first, because it was a breaking change.
Yeah, but that's basically what Semver does, right? So with minor changes, it's safe in theory to upgrade. So automatically upgrade, it's fine.
Yes.
Yep. But then I think we're also additionally saying here that we're upping to V1, but there's no change. Even though Semver says it's a breaking change, but there's no change. We're just upgrading it. Because
I'm not sure if 1.0 is from 0 point something is specified as a breaking change. We should check that if we want to be like very semantic.
Interesting. Well, it does mean that we don't have the ability to break changes willy-nilly anymore in the 0 version, but we haven't been doing that either. Let me have a look. Version 0 is V1 defines the public API. I see. So do we have a public API? So the public API. Oh, the public API means.
Yeah, I think
change it then
technically
becomes V2. Yeah.
Yeah, I think technically we are still unstable, and we can do whatever we want every release. If you actually think people care about our versions. But of course, that's not really true, and that's why we have been following the Semver patches and then like practicing this.
So, okay, this probably addresses our question. How do I know when to release 1.0.0? If your software is being used in production, it should probably already be 1.0.0. If you're worrying a lot about backwards compatibility, you should probably already be 1.0.0. So that's fair enough to me. So I'm fine with 1.0.0.
One question I have about the V1 architecture. There's this shared ingress. Are we planning on having a chart just for the ingress, and then?
Are you referring to this ingress?
Yeah, exactly. That one. This one is in the namespace, but so when I have like how do I when I'm rolling out just production like or just stable track, how do we make sure that the changes that I'm rolling out do not change anything in the ingress, for example? Or no, I mean when I'm just doing Canary, sorry, when I'm just doing Canary or one of the unstable tracks, how do we make sure that that doesn't break the ingress? So
break the this ingress.
yeah. No, I mean the Canary ingress like that. This is specified inside. Like this is a resource that we define, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if
So
we have like a Helm
basically,
chart. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
sorry. So basically, canary ingress is additional resource. It's separate from the default ingress. So we created this canary ingress when wait. It should be always exist.
Yeah, so I'm feeling like it would be better to manage this resource independently of the application deployments, because otherwise, when you deploy your application or your Canary, like I don't know, we have to have a special condition that says, should I be updating the Canary ingress inside the chart? But yeah, so just wondering because there's like separate boxes around stable track, Canary track, rollout track. So I was wondering maybe that was your intention with the graph. To have like to kind of extract the Canary or the external ingress into a separately managed resource.
Yes. So like at first I was thinking that maybe we can create a canary ingress before canary track or the resource for canary or rollout is created. And then when this, these ones are going to be removed when stable track is fully rolled out. So I thought that we can also remove this kind of ingress when like these resources are gone, and then switch it, like just update this ingress to point to stable track. That was my initial thought, but I have to make sure that if it works as intended, like if we can update the this ingress according to the like stage, like when canary exists or canary is gone. Yeah, we got to make sure that.
What about if we want to have canary by weight? Is it? Not weight. Like canary by traffic. So we want to say 40% of traffic goes to canary, 60% of traffic goes to stable. That means that they need to coexist, right? So we can't delete it. So
Yeah, true. I think there are two possibilities. Like, well, yeah, if canary, we always create the canary ingress, regardless the like this canary or rollout track is created. Then we set the weight to 0%, because there's nothing to route to, so all traffic goes to stable. And when canary track is created, then we can just update the parameter, the weight value to like 10% or 20%. Yes. And one thing is that we also support increment rollout, right?
Yes.
And we can just change the weight, like calculating the weights by the number of parts, and then change this weight. Today is a bit different, like scaling up parts and scaling down parts. in a different truck. But it's going to be a bit different in this B1 architecture.
Yep. I think that's okay. I think we can test this out. So Holder as well. I think what's going to happen is that we're going to do the same thing as we're currently doing now, which is that we have one chart, but we will have multiple releases. So there will be a production release, and then there'll be a production canary release, and then there'll be production release.
Exactly. So there will be multiple releases, but which of the releases owns the ingress resource?
Production, I guess. Yeah, that's a good question.
So that's why I'm thinking that it should be a separately managed resource, kind of like the Postgres, because it's like an infrastructural piece that shouldn't change, when you're changing Canary. Or should it?
Why not production? Because as long as you got 1%, unless there is a situation where 0% of traffic goes to production, which doesn't seem likely to me.
So actually, like the very first pipeline of AutoDevops, if Canary is enabled, they're not stable, right? And only Canary exists.
Correct.
So I think today it's broken, right? Because this ingress doesn't exist. So
broken.
I think we need to create this resource before.
Currently it will just deploy Canary, I think, and it will just your application is going to be live, but you'll be serving 100% traffic from Canary. I don't know if that's broken or not, but it's weird.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I would still say production, but this seems like a long-running issue we need to address at some point.
Yeah. So like I'm thinking of this as a way to cut down the cyclomatic complexity of the chart, because this will be like one more conditional that can be used in conjunction with other conditions when it's only actually supposed to ever be used in one particular way. And so if we instead externalize that condition and just keep the Canary ingress separately managed, kind of like we did with the Postgres, then the chart will become twice as simple, because there's now not that extra condition where the ingress resource is either updated or not updated based on whether or not the track is stable.
So it's like a separate resource, much like Postgres.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I'm not sure if that really makes sense. I mean, that will definitely increase the complexity of AutoDeploy image to which is reaching a point where I'm thinking maybe we should be using something like Helm file if we really want to double down on Helm charts for it. But yeah, it's I do want to cut down on the if conditions in the Helm chart. Like that would be really, really nice. It would just make it a lot easier to follow.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that Helm file will help us here.
No, I think Helm file just have they already ironed out a lot of ways to call Helm correctly with multiple charts, but yeah, otherwise I'm not sure. Personally, I'm not super convinced that Helm is the best solution for something like the AutoDeploy, in general.
Right.
That's also another long-running discussion that we should that's something that we might want to discuss separately, Shinya, for a future handover.
I didn't know that there's such a discussion. Helm might not be a good fit for AutoDeploy. Can you briefly summarize what's that problem?
So if you just look
do we have issue?
No, there's no issue for it at the moment, I think directly. It's more like if you look at the Helm chart, you'll see that there's so many conditionals in it, so many if
Yeah,
things.
yeah, exactly.
And like the chart has become a DSL that is more complicated than the resources that it is defining. And actually, if you render the chart for majority of users, it's going to be like 3 files or something. Like it's something super simple, like resources that the user could just be versioning themselves. So like the value is there's some things there, like the parameterization is useful to us because we have this GitLab integration that has to work, and it's a common operation that everyone needs to do. But then there's other customizations there, like the ports and the liveness probes and stuff that GitLab really doesn't care about, but the user needs to be able to customize. And it would be much easier if they could just, apply the Kubernetes customization without having to consult our DSL. But this is like a generic issue with all Helm charts, and it's not really us. Like it's you'll see many chart authors complaining about this.
Oh,
so
that's
there's
interesting.
I've spoken a bit with Mikhail about this as well, and he pointed me towards some solutions that I haven't had time to actually look at that could, but like one of them is called KPT. I think it's a play from Google. That's kind of like a Helm rival, but it uses a thing called Customize, which is a Kubernetes native lightweight templating solution. It doesn't let you do everything, and it's a bit different where in Helm you can have a conditional, and if that conditional is false, there's just an entire resource disappears. But with Customize, you can only add on top of an existing customization. So you start with a base and it adds up, kind of like RBAC permissions.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is like, I don't know, I haven't started a formal issue or anything about it just because I don't want to distract people with it until I have a better idea. But we can also think about it. It's fine to talk about like this, but writing it up, I don't know what to write yet.
I think the focus is customization, because now at the end of the day, we still need something to deploy. So Helm works as well. The problem is the customization. So there are tools out there, for example, KPT, which allows customization in a much simpler form. And it doesn't require us to have if-else statements. So people can just say include a folder, and that customizes the resource that's already in the default. But that's a whole separate issue. I think.
Yeah. Thanks.
I think vendoring solving the breaking changes problem will go a long way towards allowing us to do those kind of things as well in the future.
Okay. I want to come back to the version number because we're talking about V0 architecture, and if we decide to bump it immediately to 1, then the V0 architecture is now the V0 and the V1 architecture, and then now we are talking about a V2 architecture now, right? So I want to be clear on that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think I'm happy to bump to V1.0.1. I don't know what you two think.
So at the bundling,
I'm happy with that.
Right?
So at GitLab 14, we'll bump to V2 is what I'm saying, right? If we bump to V1 now?
Which point are you proposing to make a breaking change, like the resource architecture change?
V2.
So does it mean that we have to wait until B40.0, or just to be clear? Are you proposing to do that? We should make the breaking change at the B14 in GitHub version.
Yes, kind of. So, okay. So the steps here is that we bundle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we want to have a common semantic version number. And I propose that common semantic version number be V1.0.0.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one change. We need. I think it's up there in one of
Yep.
the first paragraph.
Makes sense.
But even though it's a major version bump, there's no breaking change. Nothing happens. It's just a bump. So that's one. That's the first point. And then at some point, from now to 14.0, we can introduce V2
Mm-hmm.
as that includes the architecture change, which is a breaking change. But it will not break people's pipelines because it will not be the default.
Yeah, true.
It will be opt-in. So we can introduce V2 architecture at any time and V2 major version at any time.
So like
and
we
then,
can.
And then in GitLab 14, we switch the default.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we could
So,
even
like,
do V3 and V4 in between and just put whatever is the latest in 14.
Yeah, something like that. And then we can do whatever Hoarder says, which is use V2 for new projects and so on and so forth. But this is just onions. That's all.
So like ambitious users can use latest AutoDeploy image version, right?
Yep.
And when we introduce like major versions, we don't say that it's stable yet, right? Until it becomes a default in AutoDeploy template. For example, we introduce like V1 or like later V2.
Yes.
But we don't say that it's stable. It's more like edge, right?
Yes.
And
that's
then,
right.
Like there are a lot of things could be changed in the future, so you shouldn't use it for critical application.
I think we can have like pre suffixes in Helm versions as well. So we can at first introduce v2.0.0-pre or alpha. I think we can do that.
I think that's a good idea. V2.1 pre or something. So
yeah, I
we
think
do the similar
we
thing. We do the similar thing in release.
But what would this achieve for us? Oh,
it's just a signal for people who are too ambitious to say, hey, yes, I know, I understand your eagerness to use V2, but it's free. We're still testing it out.
But this would also be suffixed in the tag of the Docker image, right? Or if we're merging the versions into one number,
right.
How do and it's bundled, and we want to, but we also want to keep rolling things out.
Right.
Yeah. How do we do this? So I feel like with the chart not vendored, we could make releases to it that are, well, we can't actually make breaking changes to it because of the, because people are using latest. We'd have to rename the chart and publish it under a different name. But if we vendor it, we bypass that, but then we have to update the image for people to be able to use the new chart. So how do we get people to use the new image without making everyone use the new image?
We need to have two folders then.
Like, how do you get people who are on implicit AutoDevOps to do this? Should they be able to do this? Or are we going to just do it only for new users and have like a button that existing users can click to move?
So for example, like we specify the version here, right? And we at least we make like this, like point always the latest version of V4, V0 or something, and then at some point we updated to V4, right?
Yeah, and I'm not. Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Yeah, then
I don't want
like
us to use floating versions like that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So well, yeah. Regardless of that, like we update the major version, and then it breaks. It could break the things.
Yep.
So like I was thinking about like, can we check the chart version before proceeding the deployment?
Yes.
And if the chart version is different,
Yes.
like AutoDeploy version is like significantly different, then we show alert to users like fail the pipeline, and then which version charts do you want to keep using? If you don't want to go through the manual upgrade, then just specify the environment variables to, for example, then this becomes a variable, like deploy image version, and then user like this, and then you specify the expert version, right? B0 support or something. You just specify the variables. So that this image always used, and then their deployment can continue.
So basically what we are saying is that it's still bundled, and then we basically start a new branch called V2. Am I right?
Branch.
I guess yes. That's kind of like what it would be. So it's really a lot like the Postgres one, except that here we are doing it with the image version itself instead of as a like a variable inside the script. And then we fail it. We check somewhere early inside the image what the previous deployment was, and you say now we're gonna break. And my only question there is it acceptable on point release of GitLab to break people's deployments to show them that message? I mean, it will only happen once, because as soon as somebody does see that message and decides to use the old version, they will be stuck on that version forever.
Why would we break it? Sorry?
Well, like, you know how we did the Postgres version for 13.0? There was the first time somebody rolls out on 13.0, if they were using the in-cluster Postgres, the pipeline will break, it will fail. So you say you're doing like a critical security fix or scaling your rollout or something, pipeline failed. Now with Postgres, we were pretty safe because I don't think anyone was really using it for production, or I'm hoping not many people were using it for production. And also it was 13.0, it was a breaking release, and that was kind of expected. But is the same okay to do in minor release? Can we say on 13.3 or 13.2 or whatever like that the deployment pipeline fails, just so that we can tell you that we made an upgrade and that you have to pick a version?
No.
Right.
I'm gonna default to no, I think. Yeah. Because I think that breaks too many pipelines. And we can only do that on a major version of GitLab. Unless it's a better, unless there's a reason that we can do that, like a good reason. If I follow, I'm just following semantic versioning is my reasoning. If that makes sense.
I agree that it would be ideal if we did not have to show them a failed pipeline just to tell them that we upgraded the major version. It is still worth saying that it would only happen once. But
I think we can show them a failed pipeline in GitLab 14.0. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In 14.0 we can do this. That's kind of the contract that the users. Although on GitLab.com it's really dubious because You know, people on GitLab.com don't care about the version. They just want their stuff to work.
Yeah, that's a different story. Yeah, I think we had that retrospective for GitLab 13.0. Yeah.
Well, just out of curiosity, did we have complaints from the Postgres upgrade that recently introduced, like the channel change, right?
The only like complaint I saw from users. Well, we had actually complaints from our own SREs who ran into this, and also at the same time ran into other deployment problems, and it was hard for us to tell what was causing the failures, and we had to actually fix like several things until we actually like got things working again. And then there was somebody who was on a custom chart, and that was a use case we forgot about for 13.0, where they just had deleted Postgres from their custom chart in cluster 1. So they didn't actually have one, but we said we detected one, and then we failed their pipeline when we shouldn't have. But that's like a really hard situation for us to deal with, because we're not like, we can't, the custom charts are always going to be that kind of a second-class citizen in that sense.
Yeah.
But that was the main consideration I've seen, or like concern. Like I did not see many people complaining about the upgrade, because the error, I think, because the error message was very clear. But I'm also looking at the metrics now, because I totally forgot to check if a lot of pipelines failed.
So we have the metrics in the chart, metrics in Grafana, right? You showed me.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm trying to find like, when did we make this breaking change? It's somewhere like mid-May, or it would have been late May, like around May 17th or something.
It doesn't change. It didn't change much, if I remember correctly. Also, partly, as Hoda was saying, not many people would be using the in-cluster Postgres. They will be using Amazon RDS or Google Cloud SQL if they have serious production users. If they're using it for development, then it's fine. It's not a big problem for them.
Well, okay. So, like, if this issue is missing something, if this issue is missing something, like maybe there's something we learned from the latest Postgres upgrade change, right? So, like, if this issue is missing something of this recently what we run, please leave a comments there. So,
okay,
we can avoid making some mistake.
Yeah, I think we need to put in two things. We need to update the steps, if you don't mind. In the AutoDeploy steps, did we say when we introduce? We need to introduce we increment the major version. Yeah, I think we're missing a step to say we need to detect.
Okay. This one?
We need to detect the current setup and fail the pipeline. Have we already got it? I remember you talking about it. Oh, we don't have it. Oh, you have it as a comment somewhere down there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We detect their version difference. And show warning message or error message. Failed pipeline.
And the next point is that we can only change the default on GitLab 14.0. Change the default Docker image.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, there.
You can change the default version. The GitLab Rails.
But we can change the default for new users sooner, although that
if
can
we
also
want
lead
to.
Yeah, if we want to, but that can lead to a lot of fragmentation over time if we do that a lot.
I don't think we need it. It could be an additional effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we need it as well.
Well, thank you, folks. It's time. So it's really valuable discussion. Thank you. I'm gonna post this video later and summarize what we talked about. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Oh, thank you, Shinya, for organizing this.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye bye. You too.